Star Trek, The Next Generation, Starfleet Academy, Crossfire, Chapter 11. Geordi dodged to his left, but the beam changed direction and kept coming. Wherever he went, the craft adjusted its aim, and the lethal ray drew closer. Suddenly, from high on the hill, came the most horrible noise of all, a blaring trombone at full volume. It sounded like a herd of dying moose as it blared over and over again. The aircraft reversed course and headed to investigate. Geordi gazed up the hillside and could see a furtive figure dashing among the flames. Will had given him a few more seconds of life, and he had better put it to good use. Will was right about the phase modulator. He had better do something with it or throw it out. Geordi turned the device on and began to play, trying to relax his tense, nervous muscles. He began with the frequencies that had controlled the tiny robots, and then he let his subconscious mind take over. He envisioned himself playing directly to the aircraft with a hole in its nose, the one that was trying to kill him. He was sure that the ground-based robots were communicating with the aircraft, plus the Orions knew how to jam them, so he should be able to connect too. Geordi plied the colorful keys to the phase modulator, and he knew that he was connecting. "Sleep," he tried to tell the aircraft. Even though Geordi felt confident, he was still afraid to look up. Finally, he stared into the night sky. Like a great white shark cruising the depths, the aircraft banked through the dark clouds and angled toward him. Geordi caught his breath, expecting the ship to open fire. He began to play the modulator again, trying to coax that relaxed feedback he had experienced before. He heard a desperate voice and clomping footsteps. "Geordi, run!" shouted Will Riker. "It's headed back this way!" He tried to ignore the friend who had just saved his life. "How far could we run?" he asked. "We have to communicate peace, not war. Let me see if I can put the ship to sleep." Will looked doubtfully at the deadly craft, which was looming closer and closer. "All right, play to it. I'll help you." He lifted his trombone to his lips and began to play the solo from Stardust. The solo he wanted so badly to perform. Somehow Will's loyalty gave Geordi all the confidence he needed. His fingers flew over the keys, and he hit chords and resonances that just felt right. The ship dipped even closer, as if it would kill them or be killed in the process, but it didn't open fire with its lethal rays. Will put down his trombone and just stared at the oncoming aircraft. "I think we can run now," said Will. Geordi gulped. "So do I." They dashed in opposite directions, scrambling over the rubble. The aircraft whooshed past them like a meteor and plowed into the hillside. The force of the explosion knocked Geordi off his feet. It also knocked out his hearing and his vision for several seconds. Geordi shook the dirt out of his hair and concentrated on getting his vision back. As it happened so many times now, he was getting used to it. Maybe one day he would learn to keep his visor working through even the most desperate actions. When his vision returned, Geordi looked up to see the aircraft buried in solid dirt. A few sparks crackled along its fuselage, and he worried about the ship bursting into flames. Luckily, the dirt acted as a dampening agent, and the sparks sputtered out. As Geordi approached the stricken aircraft, he was amazed at how dead it looked. It was like a war relic, an old cannon in a Civil War fort. Will was a few meters ahead of him, and he crouched down to study the rear thrusters. "Accelerated plasma drive engines," said Will. "Think I'll pass that propulsion exam?" "You have a good excuse if you don't," said Geordi. "You know, that's a common Federation design." "So what else is new?" Will climbed over a pile of steaming dirt to inspect the cockpit. "Do you think anybody is alive?" Geordi also climbed over the dirt and peered into the cockpit. He wasn't surprised to find that the craft had no pilot. It was just massive instruments built on top of a plasma coil. "It's a drone," he said, "all run by computer. After I played to it, I was beginning to suspect it was just a machine." Will's face twisted in anger. "So this stupid war has mercenaries fighting robots? Over a dead planet? Well, that's just great. I say we put an end to this right now." "We can't," said Geordi, "until we see who built this craft. Get a pipe and help me crack open this windshield. With pleasure, answered Will. 5 minutes later, they had broken into the enemy ship, and Geordi was studying the instruments by the light of his modulator. He noticed a plaque at the bottom of one panel. He spit at it and wiped it off with his sleeve. Tellarite, said Geordi with amazement. I recognize that symbol from the boxes Lachelle used when he was packing to go home. Yeah, said Will, and Tellar is the closest Federation planet to Elephim. Could this be what made Lachelle quit the Academy? He said blood was thicker than mud. Maybe somebody in his family is connected with this war. Will nodded thoughtfully. Maybe he was afraid that the war would be discovered. I wonder if Jock 2 brought the band here just so we would find out about the war. I thought about that too, said Geordi. I think Jock 2 felt sorry for his troops. They were silent for a moment, then Will spoke. Now we can do whatever we want to defend ourselves. Is there anything in this ship we can use? Geordi gazed down at the instrument panel. I think I can patch the phase modulator into the drone's communication system. In effect, we can issue orders to all the drones at once. What should I play? Tell them. Surrender, said Will. Total surrender. Shouldn't we contact Captain Webb first? No. Let's make sure it works before we tell anyone to come out of cover. Do you think Captain Webb would be against a ceasefire? No, I don't think so, said Geordi. They patched the phase modulator into the drone's comm panel, hoping they would contact hundreds of aircraft at once. Geordi played for over an hour, broadcasting the same persistent message of peace and surrender. They didn't know whether the message had gotten through until they heard the wild cheers of the Orion soldiers. A band of them came tearing down the hill, weeping their hearts out with joy. They rushed up to Geordi and Will and nearly crushed them with bear hugs. Then they moved on, tears rolling down their grimy green faces. Geordi finally turned the phase modulator off. Will smiled at him. Good playing, Geordi. You can be in my band anytime. Thanks. Will's comm badge beeped, and he tapped it. Riker here. This is Captain Webb. I don't know if you're aware of it, but the enemy forces have surrendered. I think we're safe to leave now. Will gave Geordi a sheepish grin. We know about it, sir. In fact, it's not a real surrender. We arranged it. LaForge hooked up his Cordan phase modulator to a downed aircraft, and we ordered all the aircraft to surrender. I hope we didn't overstep our bounds. Webb breathed a sigh of relief. I'll worry about that when we're safely back at Starfleet Academy. I always knew that phase modulator would come in handy. Till then, thank you for your quick actions. The captain cleared his throat. Captain Webb to all members of the Starfleet Academy band. Hostilities have ceased, and I am happy to say we are all accounted for. I've contacted the Gallant, and shall need a few minutes to get into position. Stand by to transport in approximately 10 minutes. Webb out. Geordi and Will cut loose with their own cheers. Then Geordi glanced back at the drone aircraft, which is now part of the landscape. He wondered how many Orions it had killed before meeting its fate as a pile of junk. Three days later, Will Riker was charging across the commons of Starfleet Academy, and Geordi was racing after him. A blustery wind seemed to force him back, and he finally had to tug on Will's sleeve. Stop, will you? Demanded Geordi. Can't we walk to Captain Webb's office? Will turned angrily on him. Only if you promise not to talk to me. I'm quitting the band. That's all there is to it. Come on, pleaded Geordi. Not all of our road trips are like that one. Most of them are calm and peaceful. I was going to quit even before it got crazy, Will insisted. They snubbed me. They pulled practical jokes on me, and I nearly got killed. Those are all good reasons to quit the band, as far as I'm concerned. He stalked off toward the science building. Geordi caught up with him as he entered the lift, and Will scowled at his friend. And you know what? I just got a B- on that propulsion exam. I couldn't even get a break because of our adventure. That's it. I'm finished with this band. Floor 3. The lift doors closed and whisked them away to the third floor. That's not a bad grade, said Geordi. We have lots of admirals who couldn't do as well. Will looked pointedly at him. I'm quitting, Geordi. That's all there is to it. These people will never be nice to me. Maybe I'll form my own band. The lift doors opened, and Geordi followed Will across the corridor into Captain Webb's office. The ensign who served as his aide ushered them past her cubicle. He's waiting for you, gentlemen. She actually smiled, which was a first for Geordi. Even Will slowed down as they entered the inner chamber. They were both surprised by the number of people in Webb's office. In addition to the band director, there was Commander Baxter, Acosta, Stinson, and several more upperclassmen. The portly captain rose to his feet and held out his hand. Cadet LaForge, Cadet Riker, welcome. I apologize for the informal nature of this gathering, but I will explain. Captain Webb, said Will, I have something I want to say. The captain smiled. I'll give you time to make a speech if you like, but first let me bring everyone up to date. Owing to the Tellurite involvement, the Federation has acted quickly to clear up matters on Elephant. The Tellurite government was not directly involved. The real warring parties, the Riquatru and the Hawkshos, used to be allies. They worked together to defeat the native people of Elephant, then they turned on each other. That's why they resorted to robots and mercenaries to do their fighting. Geordi leaned forward, listening intently. The information he had gotten in his dream was true. Webb continued. As you suggested, we contacted Lachelle, and he told us about his uncle, an arms dealer who sold weapons to the Riquatru. The Hawkshos hired the Orions. The Riquatru assumed that the war would be over quickly, but the Orion mercenaries fought better than expected, so they stepped up the fighting, and that's when Jack 2 brought us in. Jack 2 is dead, by the way. We know, said Geordi. We think he brought us there to stop the war. Webb nodded grimly. He would be happy to know that all the Orion soldiers have been sent home. The Federation will arbitrate a settlement between the warring parties. The Tellurite government will pay to rebuild the planet. Geordi looked puzzled. And the people who once lived on Elephant? The captain shook his head. If any survived, they are scattered all over the galaxy. We will try to include them in the talks. Will raised his hand impatiently. Captain Webb, may I say something? Yes, after one more announcement. The captain gave him a jovial smile. LaForge, Riker, we would love to publicly commend you for your bravery under fire, but part of the agreement with the Tellurites is that we do not embarrass them. But we have our own ways to honor you. He turned to Geordi and presented him with a stack of music charts. You're no longer a roadie, LaForge. From now on, you're a full member of the band with all privileges. We'll write parts for you and the phase modulator. Acosta grinned. That means first on the transporter. Congratulations, LaForge. Geordi accepted the music charts with his mouth agape. I can't believe this, thank you. Even Will Riker was forced to smile. Geordi, you deserve it. As for me? As for you, said Captain Webb, the band has its own honor. Mr. Stinson, go ahead. Stinson stepped forward, ran his hand over his shaven head. Riker, you stood up to us, which is something we don't usually like. But in your case, we'll make an exception. We've got a concert here on campus in 2 weeks, and we voted. You're going to play the solo on Stardust. Will stared at him. The solo? Really? This isn't a joke, is it? We don't joke about the solo, said Acosta. Once you've played the solo, you're a veteran. No more jokes. All right, Riker, said Captain Webb. You've been wanting to make a speech, so here's your chance. What have you got to say? Geordi looked expectantly at his friend. Could Will quit the band right after receiving the ultimate honor? Wouldn't be the same without him. Will finally smiled and shook his head. I just wanted to say that next year we're going to win that competition on Pacifica. Cheers echoed in Captain Webb's office.